Keanu Reeves is one of the most loved actors in the world. People like him because he is kind and humble. He doesn't care much about fame or money, he cares more about people. But what many people don't know is that, behind the cameras and movie lights, Keanu makes strong, caring friendships with the people around him. One of those people is Mateo, his driver and friend for almost 10 years. Mateo is a kind and hardworking man. He doesn't ask for much and always puts his family first. For many years he saved every dollar he could to help his wife. She needed a special surgery and it cost a lot of money. Mateo skipped meals and worked long hours just to save enough. One day Mateo went to the bank to take out all the money he had saved. He needed to pay for his wife's surgery. He thought it would be a normal visit. But something sad happened instead. A mean bank worker treated him badly. This man honestly didn't believe that Mateo had saved the money honestly. He judged Mateo by how he looked, not by the good person he was inside. What the rude bank worker didn't know is that Mateo works for someone very special, Keanu Reeves. And when Keanu finds out what happened, he won't yell or cause trouble. He will do something strong, quiet, and surprising. He will show that being famous doesn't matter as much as standing up for what is right. Want to know how this story ends? Keep watching until the very end. And before we begin, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? We read every message. The sun hadn't fully come up yet when Mateo stepped out of his small apartment. He lived there with his wife, Isabel, in a quiet part of Los Angeles. The building was old but nice. People still said good morning to each other, and the janitor knew everyone's name. Mateo wore a clean white shirt, black pants, and shiny black shoes. His clothes were simple but neat. In his hands he held a brown envelope. Inside was all the money he had saved over many years. Every dollar was important. He had worked so hard and given up so much just to help his wife get the surgery she needed. It was all he had, and he was proud to offer it out of love. Mateo was 45 years old. He had worked as a driver for over 20 years. For the past 10 years, he had been Keanu Reeves' personal driver. Yes, that Keanu Reeves. The actor. The star. But to Mateo, Keanu was more than a movie star. He was kind and respectful. Not just a boss but a friend. They didn't talk a lot, but they understood each other. There was respect between them, even in the quiet. Mateo never thought Keanu would treat him badly. And he never expected what was going to happen that day. Before picking up Keanu for the day, Mateo stopped by the bank. He needed to take out all the money to pay for the surgery. He was nervous, but he felt hopeful. The doctors said the surgery could help Isabel feel better. He believed in them. The bank was cold. It smelled like old coffee and had strong air conditioning. Mateo walked in and took a number. He looked up at the screen, waiting for his turn. He didn't go to the bank much. He liked doing things online, but this time he needed to go in person because it was a lot of money. When his number was called, he walked up to the counter. The bank worker was a white man about 30 years old. His name tag said Bryce. He had blonde hair, a dark blue tie, and didn't look very happy. "Good morning," Mateo said kindly, holding out the envelope. "I'd like to take this money out, please." Bryce looked at the envelope, then at Mateo, then back at the envelope again. He seemed unsure. "This whole amount is yours?" Bryce asked, frowning. Mateo nodded. "Yes. I've worked for many years as a driver. I saved up for my wife's surgery." Bryce didn't say anything right away. He started typing into the computer slowly. He looked at Mateo like he didn't believe him. "I need your ID," he said. Mateo gave him his ID, feeling uncomfortable. A small line of people started to form behind him. An older lady looked confused. Two young men near the back giggled quietly. Bryce looked at the ID and then mumbled under his breath, "Strange. A chauffeur with that kind of money?" Mateo heard it. It hurt. His heart sank a little. "Excuse me?" Mateo asked, trying to stay calm. Bryce looked up, not caring. "The bank can ask questions about suspicious money. I need proof of where this came from. It's all in cash. I saved it for years." "I don't have receipts," Mateo explained. "Well, without proof, I can't let you take this money out," Bryce said coldly. Now everyone was watching. Someone whispered, "What a scene." Someone else shook their head. Mateo tried to explain more. He said he worked for someone famous. He said he was honest. But Bryce wasn't listening. He crossed his arms and looked bored. His face said, "You don't belong here." Mateo felt small. He felt embarrassed. He didn't argue. He didn't beg. He just took back his ID and envelope, turned around, and walked slowly to the door. It felt like the money he carried was heavier now, like he was carrying the whole world. Outside, the sun was shining, but it didn't feel warm. Mateo leaned against his black car. He took a deep breath. His eyes were full of tears. He tried not to cry, but it hurt. The world still judged people by how they looked, not who they were. He wiped his tears away and stood up straight. He had a job to do. He couldn't be late to pick up Keanu. Work was always important to him. He got into the car, checked the mirrors, and started the engine. But his face looked different now. He was sad and he couldn't hide it. At 9:02 a.m., Keanu came out of his building. He was wearing jeans, a black t-shirt, and sunglasses. He got into the car and smiled. "Good morning," he said kindly. Mateo answered, but not with his usual cheerful voice. He started driving. Keanu was quiet at first. He usually didn't talk much during rides because he knew Mateo liked the silence. But today felt different. Keanu could feel it. As they drove down the busy streets of Los Angeles, Keanu looked into the mirror. He saw Mateo's face. He saw the red eyes. Something was wrong. And he was going to find out what it was. The truth was coming. A truth that would change not just that day, but both of their lives forever. The quiet man driving the car was named Mateo. He didn't talk much. He never really had. But today his silence felt different, like he was hurt. He took off his sunglasses and put them on his lap. His eyes looked at the rearview mirror, but not in a strong way. Mateo held the steering wheel a little too tightly. His jaw was tight too. His eyes tried to stay focused, but they looked far away. Something wasn't right. "Are you okay, Mateo?" Keanu asked softly from the back seat. Mateo nodded slowly, almost like a robot. "Yes, sir, just a small headache." Keanu waited a second, looking at him carefully. He could tell Mateo was hurting, but not in his body. It was something deeper. "Are you sure?" "Yes, sir. Just a tough day. Nothing important." Keanu tilted his head. He didn't believe him. "You've been driving me for how long now?" "Almost 10 years, Mateo said. "In all that time, have you ever talked to me about anything personal?" "No, sir," Mateo answered. "Then today doesn't feel like the day you would start unless it really mattered." The car was quiet for a moment. Mateo didn't say anything, but his hands weren't as tight now on the wheel. They stopped at a red light. Keanu looked more closely at his driver. Mateo took a deep breath. "I went to the bank this morning before picking you up." "Okay," Keanu said. "I've been saving money for a long time, for my wife's surgery. I went to take out all the money in cash. But the person at the bank wouldn't give it to me." Keanu looked more serious now. "They wouldn't let you?" "Why?" "They said the amount looked strange. The man asked me to prove where the money came from. He looked at me like I wasn't someone who should have that much money." Keanu stayed quiet. Just hearing the story made it hurt. "Did he really say that?" Keanu asked. "Not exactly. But he didn't need to. It was in his voice, his face, the way he held the envelope. Like it didn't belong to me. Like I didn't belong there." Mateo's voice shook a little. Keanu looked away, his jaw tight. "Did you get the money?" "No." That one word felt heavy in the car. Keanu didn't say anything right away. He tapped his fingers on his knee softly, thinking. Then he asked very calmly, "What was the name of the bank, man?" Mateo looked unsure, but there was something in Keanu's voice that said, "You can trust me." "Bryce." Keanu nodded slowly. "Bryce?" he said again, like he was making a promise to himself. Then he leaned back in his seat and put his sunglasses on again. But now something had changed in his face. He had made a choice. Whatever happened next, Bryce would not forget it. The car moved forward again. Keanu stayed quiet the rest of the way, but his mind was very busy. His next stop wouldn't be the one on the schedule. The next morning, after everything that happened, Mateo pulled the car around like he always did. It was early. The car was clean and ready. But something was different, even though he didn't know it yet. The man he was about to pick up had made a decision that could change the whole day, maybe even change Mateo's life. When Keanu stepped into the back seat, he looked different. Not angry, but serious, like he had a plan. He greeted Mateo like always, but his voice had something in it, something deep. "We're making a quick stop before the meeting," Keanu said calmly. Mateo adjusted the mirror and looked back. "Where to, sir?" "The bank." Mateo froze a little. Was he hearing that right? "The same one?" Keanu nodded once. "Yes." The car was quiet after that. But then Keanu leaned forward a bit and said something he almost never did. He talked about himself. "You know," he began, "when I was a kid, we didn't have a lot. My mom worked 3 jobs. I used to count coins with her to help pay rent." Mateo looked in the mirror, surprised. Keanu hardly ever shared personal stories. People looked at us like we were less, like we didn't belong, just because of how we looked or dressed. I was only a kid, but I remember how that felt. He was quiet for a second, watching the streets go by. You saved my life once, Mateo. Sir? Mateo said, surprised. After my sister died, I wasn't talking to anyone. I wasn't even sleeping. But you came every day. Drove me. Waited. You didn't talk much. But you were there. Mateo didn't know what to say. His hands held the wheel softly now. Sometimes the quiet people are the ones holding the world together, Keanu said kindly. They arrived. The car stopped in front of the same bank where Mateo had felt small the day before. The glass doors looked shiny and normal. People walked in and out, like it was just another day. But it wasn't. Not today. Keanu stepped out of the car and everything changed. The security guard looked twice. A manager near the door gasped. Phones came out fast. People couldn't believe it. Keanu Reeves had just walked into their bank. He walked to the service desk calmly. Good morning, he said politely. I'd like to be helped by Bryce. The room went quiet. The lady behind the desk looked confused. Let me check if... Please, Keanu said. I'll wait. Bryce came out a minute later holding a clipboard. He didn't realize who had asked for him. When he saw Keanu's face, he froze. Mr. Reeves, what an honor. Bryce smiled nervously. Keanu smiled too, but not big. I'm here to make a deposit and ask a question. Bryce's smile got smaller. The whole bank was watching now. Keanu stepped a little closer and asked in a calm but serious voice, would you have treated a man in a suit the same way you treated the man yesterday? The one with the envelope? Bryce didn't answer right away. His face turned red. His hands shook a little on the clipboard. The whole bank was now super quiet. Customers, workers, everyone was listening. Keanu didn't yell. He didn't need to. His voice was calm, but everyone paid attention. I've seen a lot of acting in my life, he said. But yesterday I wasn't acting. That was real. You judged someone just by how they looked. Bryce tried to speak. Mr. Reeves, I promise we follow rules. This isn't about rules, Keanu said, cutting him off. This is about respect. Someone pulled out a phone and started recording. Then someone else. Red lights from phone cameras popped up around the room. Keanu didn't get scared. Let me tell you something about the man who came to this counter yesterday. His name is Mateo. He has been my driver for almost 10 years. He always comes early, leaves late, and is kind to everyone, even if they aren't kind to him. The people around started to feel something. Some looked down, feeling bad. Others just watched. He's not just someone who works for me, he's my friend. And what you did to him was not okay. Bryce, the man behind the counter, moved his mouth trying to talk, but no words came out. A lady behind the counter whispered to another worker. The bank manager came looking nervous. He fixed his tie and walked over fast. Mr. Reeves, the manager said with a nervous smile, maybe we can talk in my office? Keanu held up his hand. He was still calm, still strong. No, he said, I asked Bryce for help and I want to finish this with him. Keanu wasn't angry. He just spoke the truth, clear and strong. Bryce looked around. Now he knew everyone was watching. People were whispering. Cameras were filming. His shoulders dropped. He didn't look so sure anymore. That envelope, Keanu said, has all the money Mateo saved for his wife's surgery. He worked hard for years to save it. Do you know how brave it is for someone like him to come here hoping to be treated kindly? No one said anything. Keanu leaned closer and looked straight at Bryce. Would you have treated him the same if he wore a suit? If his skin was lighter? If he had a different last name? Bryce stayed quiet. That silence, Keanu said softly, tells me everything. Keanu took the envelope from his jacket and gently put it on the counter. This is the deposit I came to make, he said. Bryce looked at the envelope, then looked at Keanu. But the most important thing here, Keanu said, isn't the money. Keanu turned and looked at the front door. Mateo stood there. He had seen everything through the glass. Slowly, Keanu picked up the envelope again and walked to him. He's my driver, Keanu said, his voice louder now so everyone could hear, but he's also my friend. And what happened here, it stops now. Bryce's face turned pale. Mateo was about to speak. A question was in the air like a held breath. Would you have treated someone in a fancy suit the same way you treated the man who came here yesterday with that envelope? Bryce opened his mouth, then closed it again. His face turned red. The clipboard in his hands shook. His knuckles were white from holding it too tight. The bank lobby was full of people. Everyone was quiet. All eyes were on them. Keanu didn't shout. He didn't have to. Just by standing there calm and strong, everyone listened. I've seen many people act in movies, Keanu said, his voice steady. But what happened yesterday, that wasn't acting. That was real. You judged him because of how he looked. Bryce tried to take control again. Mr. Reeves, I promise, we have rules. This isn't about rules, Keanu said, cutting in. This is about respect. Someone nearby pulled out their phone and started recording. Then another. Soon there were red lights from phone cameras all around. Keanu didn't flinch. Let me tell you something about the man who came to this counter yesterday. His name is Mateo. He has been my driver for almost 10 years. He always comes early. He always stays late. He treats everyone with respect, even people who don't treat him kindly. The crowd felt it again. Some looked down, others kept staring. He's not just my worker. He's my friend. And what you did to him was wrong. Bryce tried to say something, but no words came out. A lady behind the counter whispered to her co-worker. The manager came again, looking nervous, fixing his tie. Mr. Reeves, he said, trying to smile, maybe we can talk in my office? Keanu lifted his hand. Still calm. Still strong. No, he said. I asked for Bryce's help and I want to finish with him. He wasn't angry. Just honest. Bryce looked around. People were still watching. Phones still recording. His confidence faded. That envelope, Keanu said, has every dollar Mateo saved for his wife's surgery. He worked for years to save that money. Do you know how much trust it takes for someone like him to come in here hoping to be treated fairly? Still no one spoke. Keanu leaned in just a little. Would you have asked so many questions if he wore a suit? If his skin was lighter? If his last name sounded different? Bryce said nothing. That silence, Keanu said softer now, tells me everything. Keanu gently placed the envelope on the counter. This is the deposit I came to make. Bryce looked at it, then at Keanu. But the real treasure, Keanu added, isn't the money. Keanu turned his head toward the door. Mateo was standing there. He had seen everything through the glass. Keanu picked up the envelope and walked to him. He's my driver, Keanu said, now louder so the whole room could hear, but he's also my friend. And what happened here, it stops today. Bryce's face turned pale. Mateo looked like he was about to speak. Bryce stood at the doorway now. He couldn't look Mateo in the eyes. In his hands was a plain white envelope. No bank name. Just some handwriting, for Mateo. Mateo waited. Behind him, the hallway was quiet. A cooking show played faintly on TV. Isabel was resting in the next room. The smell of tea and warm bread filled the air. Mateo walked forward. He crossed his arms, not angry, just unsure. What are you doing here? He asked. Not mean, just real. Bryce swallowed. I came to say something I should have said, when I looked you in the eyes and didn't really see you. He held out the envelope with both hands. Mateo didn't take it yet. What is this? Just my words. I couldn't say them right when it happened. I wasn't raised to know how. But I wrote them down. Mateo slowly took the envelope and opened it. Inside was a letter written neatly. He started reading the first few lines silently. Bryce waited. His hands twisted nervously. Mateo, I embarrassed you. And I've thought about it every day since. My dad was a driver. He died before I really understood who he was. I think I was ashamed that he was just a driver, until I saw you. And I realized I had become the kind of person who would have treated my own father that way too. Mateo stopped reading. His eyes hurt. Bryce took a step back. When I saw that video online, Bryce said, I didn't feel attacked. I felt like people could really see me. Mateo looked at him for a long time. You think saying sorry fixes everything? He asked. Bryce shook his head. No. I don't think anything I do can erase what happened. But I needed you to see me trying. There was silence. Neither of them spoke. Then Mateo stepped back and opened the door wider. Come in, he said. Bryce blinked, surprised. Are you sure? You didn't want to see me before. Maybe it's time I see you now, Mateo said. They sat at the small kitchen table. Mateo poured 2 cups of tea. Then for the first time he told Bryce his full story. He talked about being a little boy in a quiet village in Mexico. He talked about crossing borders, not for treasure but just to stay alive. He told how he met Isabel, how they fell in love, and how they raised a daughter with nothing but love, hard work, and patience. He told Bryce about sleeping in the car so Isabel could have the bed when her body hurt. He talked about missing birthdays and learning English by listening to the radio while driving rich people around the city. He talked about how sad it felt to always be unseen, and the joy he felt when Keanu made him feel like he mattered. Not because Keanu was famous, but because he saw Mateo as a person. Bryce listened. Really listened. He didn't say anything until Mateo finished. The silence felt special. I judged you, Bryce said softly, because I never made peace with my own dad. I didn't let myself believe that men like him, or like you, could be anything more than just shadows in someone else's story. Mateo looked at him. Really looked. And something inside him softened. Do better, he said. That's all I ask. Bryce nodded. His eyes were shiny with tears. I will. The next day the bank shared a message. It wasn't about looking good for the public. It was about real change. They started a new program called Empathy in Practice. It was a class for all workers, made together with people from the community who had real stories to share. Mateo's story was the first one in the program. He didn't ask for that. But when they offered, he said, if it helps someone else feel seen, use it. The video of Mateo's story kept spreading, but Keanu didn't want to do interviews. All he said was, this isn't a movie. It's someone's real life. And that deserves more than just headlines. Months passed. Then came the day of Mateo's daughter's graduation from nursing school. Mateo sat in the front row with Isabel. They wore simple clothes, but they looked proud. Their daughter walked across the stage with her diploma in her hand. She looked around the crowd. She found them, and just behind them, way in the last row, wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap, was Keanu. He nodded at her. She smiled. Keanu left quietly before the applause even ended. Outside the building, under the shade of a tree, Keanu waited for Mateo. They hugged for a moment without saying anything. Before he left, Keanu leaned in and whispered, sometimes quiet kindness changes more in this world than any movie scene I'll ever make. The days after graduation were calm and peaceful. Mateo went back to work. Isabel was feeling better each day. Their daughter, now a nurse, started working in the hospital, helping people. She carried with her the strength her quiet dad had always shown her. Then one afternoon, another letter came. No stamp. No envelope. Just a piece of paper, slid under Mateo's door. He opened it and saw the same handwriting from months ago. It said, I've been going to therapy for the first time in my life. Not to erase what I did, but to understand it. My dad died driving someone to the airport. He had worked 16 hours straight. I used to be mad at him for always being gone. But now I understand. You reminded me of him. That scared me. Thank you for forgiving me even when I didn't deserve it. You changed something in me. Not just how I see others, but how I see myself. Bryce. Mateo folded the letter carefully. He put it in a small drawer where he kept special things. Old photos, his daughter's first crayon drawings, and a tiny note from Isabel that said, thank you for never giving up on us. He didn't need anything more than that. Weeks later, the bank had its first graduation for the Empathy in Practice program. Workers sat in chairs in the break room. They watched videos, listened to stories, and heard some hard truths. The last speaker of the day was a man wearing a white shirt and black pants. Mateo. He didn't speak like a hero or a fighter. He just told the truth. And for the first time, Bryce stood in the audience, not feeling shame but feeling proud. Not proud of what he had done, but proud that he had changed. Life didn't become perfect, but it became more human. Mateo kept working for Keanu, who stayed quiet and humble. But something between them was different now. A deep respect. A quiet friendship. The kind you don't need words for. A bond made not in a fancy car, but in silence, shared pain, and kindness. One quiet Sunday, Mateo and his daughter sat on a bench near the hospital where she worked. Do you ever wish things had happened differently? She asked. Mateo thought for a moment. No, he said. Because sometimes, when you're broken in front of people, it helps them see how strong you really are inside. She smiled and rested her head on his shoulder. Just then, they saw someone walking across the street. It was Keanu. He wore a hoodie with his hands in his pockets, walking alone as always. Mateo lifted a hand to wave. Keanu lifted his chin to say hello, then kept walking. But before he turned the corner, he paused, looked back, and called out softly. Sometimes a quiet kindness does more than the loudest action. Mateo nodded. They didn't need to say anything else. Because now the world is a little different. A little kinder. And finally, Mateo wasn't invisible anymore. If you like this story, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and let me know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling adventures, mysteries, and unforgettable moments. Your support keeps these stories alive and the creativity flowing. Thanks for watching. I can't wait to see you in the next video.